and welcome to another episode of The Hollywood Knitter. My name is Allison, and I'm recording from my home in Los Angeles, California on February 17th, 2025. This is Valentine's Day weekend. This is President's Day weekend in the United States. It is a 4-day weekend for me, which has been glorious. This is the last day of that. But I thought I would take some time to sit and catch up with you guys. It's been, I don't know, a few weeks. And I got some FOs, I got some whips, a lot of whips, and some stash acquisition, which my cat Apple is rubbing on the floor. And yeah, just general shenanigans and things I've been up to lately. Hopefully everyone is having a wonderful time. Ignore my crazy hair. This is day off hair. Actually, this is all the time hair. Anyways, and yeah, so I hope everyone is having a wonderful Valentine's Day. If you celebrate it, we didn't, we don't. We had a sandwich together, and that said Happy Valentine's Day. We're not big holiday, kind of couple holiday stuff here, or a lot of random things. But it has been a nice few days off. I've gotten lots of knitting, and I was inspired to sit down and talk to you because it's been a while. So let's catch up. Let's talk about my FOs. I have 4 today. None of them, I should say none of them are big. No major garments this time, all accessories. So, we'll start off with my hat that I did. This is the Ink Hat by Jennifer Dassault, and I knit this over kind of a trip in January. It was my kind of a travel knitting project, and the yarn is Ula and Leah Baby Camel in the natural, and then the dark brown is a yak down and a fingering. And I just wanted to have an easy hat, and this is kind of semi-mindless. The instructions were a little difficult to get started. They had you do like a tubular bind on, cast on, and then the knitting in the round was using a very popular, which you'll see, a striped version where you knit to within 3 stitches of the next color, drop it, put the next 3, and then carry on. And I love this technique. I don't even know what the technique is particularly called, but I have a few things that I'll show you right now that I used it on. The point of using this specific yarn is because it was part of my goals to get some old stash out. And so I had some partial balls because actually I don't think either one of these was, but I had some partial balls of this. So this makes a nice, here I'll actually put it on, a nice little hat. In theory, it is reversible. So in the inside is the other color. You can see right here where I messed up one of the the carries, and by the time I saw it, I didn't care. But yeah, so this is going to be a charity hat, and I wanted to show it, or I wanted to cast on because I'm knitting with this Wintersal I'm wearing is actually an Ula and Leela that I knit in 2019, so 5 years ago. And this is a yak down too. And this sweater is so warm and it's so nice. The orange is actually a different yarn, but the dark and this. So yeah, this dark is the same there. And that's why I had leftovers, and it's been a while. And I'm through my Wintersal on because even though it is actually really warm outside, or will be, it's going to be like, I don't know, high 60s today. My home is never, and I am never that warm. So this Ink Hat by Jennifer Dassault, as I said, the actual pattern itself is pretty easy once you get it. I like the fact that it can be reversible. You really don't see the slip stitch that much in there. And the fact that you could have the 2 colors and then you could reverse it as long as you do a cute little top. I liked it. And so, as I said, it will be a very warm charity hat for somebody because of the yarns being yak and, what did I say? Yak and camel. The other thing that I have are all socks because I'm on a sock kick. Well, I'm always on a sock kick, but I'm on a use up some of my larger scrap sock kick. So one of the ones, the first one I did was I wanted to use, you might have remembered, oops, just dropped it on my cat. You might have remembered I did the Woolens and Nosh Advent this year, and I made the socks for my boyfriend. I was hoping I would have a full enough for me, and I didn't quite. I thought the yarn would be 2 full repeats of the colorway, and it wasn't. It was like 1.5. So I had a little less than I wanted for mine. So I kind of did a weird striping pattern. So this dark was the contrast that she gave, and then this was obviously the color. And I basically took exactly how much I had of the Advent stripe and then of the solid color stripe that I used for heels and toes on the other one. And then I added in a mini. And this is Lantern Light Mini in Wendigo. And this was a mini I picked up in a Halloween Advent a few years ago. So I kind of wanted to just do a striping pattern that would let me use up all the different colors. And I got a pair of shorties. So pretty pleased with it. Here's the second one. I won't put it on the blocker, but yeah. And then the heel I'm using is this kind of Ducati heel from, that's the designer. And I forget what pattern I have it in, but I'm really liking this heel. Basically you come up and then it's hard to see on this one, but you basically do a little wedge and then you do 2 short row wedges here as opposed to just one big one. Or I mean, you do 2 short row kind of stripes. So the heel is a little more gradual and I kind of like it. I actually really like it. So this is Woolens and Nosh. The whole sock, the whole pair of socks was about 210 yards. So this is definitely for me. It's definitely on the shorter side. So 210 would be just under 50 grams, and between the 10 gram mini, which gave me heels, toes, that kind of thing, and then using up all the colors. I obviously had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the colors as opposed to 24, which is okay. So these are for me, and I like minis. Then I cast on another kind of striping sock to use up some of my larger fingering minis. And this sock, I'm just calling it my striped sock number 1 because I think I'm going to be doing a few this year. And this was with Dream in Color Smushy, and then Invictus Master of My Feet and Confetti, and then a mini. So this is I have a lot of minis, and that was one of the things that I counted up. So I love that I have a lot of solid color minis from the Fiber Nymph Advent and some other things. And so I picked a mini that would go this kind of really cool purpley color. And as you can see, and then I just striped the 2 colors. So one is more the purple, and then the striping is more of a cream with orange, and they really went really well together, and they look beautiful. And this is 250 yards. As you can see, I made it a little taller. This heel, because I was going to do the other heel, the Ducati heel, but I forgot. And so by the time I forgot, I just did a standard Fish Lips kiss heel on it, which is fine too. And I love these too. And I love that I used all of the Dream in Color Smushy. The other project that was in recently was a shawl. And so I had, I don't know, whatever I had. And so I wanted to I used up 25 grams of it. For me, it counts as out of my stash when it's 20 grams or below. In terms of whether I count it in my Ravelry stash. After that, it kind of just goes. I have a bag of like smaller ones, smaller minis, or I have little glass jars and things like that that I can use for that. But anything that is over 20 grams, even like, so socks, most of my socks are 250, which means I don't use a full skein. And so I want to knock off some of the ones that are older. So yeah, these are probably going to go into my box. I might actually gift them to my mother. We shall see. I have too many socks. But what I really liked about these is a lot of times when I've done striping, you know, when you stripe in like color or something, you go up, drop, and then pick up the next color. But when you do that, it leaves a line. And so I was looking, I'm like, there has to be a way besides helical knitting, which is the technique I used in the next pair. And it was just a super simple way to basically have your line where you switch, move all the time. And it was knit to within three stitches of the next color, stop that color you're on, put the next 3, and then knit. And so you're constantly moving where you do it. It was super easy, very mindless. So you didn't have to worry about, you just had to pay attention to kind of where you were coming up to your next color. But even when you went over, you just take back 2 stitches or something like that. And it doesn't leave any join or any line where the colors are. And inside, you can't tell either. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, it just looks seamless. And I love that. So I'm a fan of this kind of striping technique. And it ended up being, I knit these socks first, and then I knit that hat, which used the same kind of way to make it so that your colors weren't having an obvious, not join, but separation, because typically if you drop one and do one, then there's like a 1 stitch difference between the colors. And it's noticeable. I have other socks and things like that where it's been noticeable. So I knit those socks, and these socks are all my purse knitting, and they, every so often I'll get to a point where I just want to finish them, usually at the heel or something, when it's not the mindless I want at work, when I have to think too much. And so then I will just like work on them for a little bit at home. This other one, I did helix knitting. So helix knitting is 3 colors. Well, I did 3 colors because I did it in, I knit them toe up, magic loop. And so I did 3 yarns. And so each time you get to the next end of one needle, then you pick up another color. And so you're just constantly doing the 3 that way. It was a little more fiddly in terms of yarn management than I wanted for a purse knitting. I persevered because once I started, and I really liked what they looked like, but I much prefer the purple ones, which is just 2 colors. It's less yarn management, way easier. I still think the look of it is very similar. So these ones, this is Queen City Noda in, I think, So Much Drama, that I had left over from a pair of socks. And then I used more of that Invictus Master of the Feet, the same one that's in the purple one. I had enough left to do more. And then it was another Miss Crosby's train case. So it was kind of like 2 lighter ones and then the gray one. And this is what it turned out looking like. And then I had more of this. So I used this for the heels, the toe, the heel, and the top of the foot, the cuff. And so, yeah, I really like how these came out too. Like, they're just this perfect kind of muted, neutrally awesome color. So pretty pleased with both of those, and finishing them. So within the first 6 weeks, I did 3 pairs of socks and a hat. Now, that, you know, that is a fair amount of knitting, because socks take a long time. And obviously, look, I'm into like stripes, all sorts of stripes right now. And then the hat. But my biggest one that I've been knitting on pretty monogamously, I can say it, is a cardigan. It's the Grayer cardigan by Hannah, I'm going to really butcher this last name, Masajiewski. And this is a pattern that actually doesn't have a ton of projects on Ravelry. I think it's like 30-ish. And I can't remember if it's fairly new. And I've never heard of this designer before. But when I was looking for a sweater that would go with my yarn, and this was yarn American U fingering tweed and earth tones that I picked up at Rhinebeck this year. And I picked up 4 skeins of it without any plan, because it was just this beautiful tweed fingering yarn. And this is how it knits up. I'll show you my swatch. Look at that. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. So I knew I wanted to do a cardigan because it was natural and it would be a neutral. And I wanted to do something a little different. Anyways, And so I picked up this cardigan, or I chose this cardigan, and this cardigan is so pretty. So it is a cabled front cardigan, and you can see I haven't blocked my cables yet, but you can see the cables. This is the edge, so it's like this finished edge with the cable. And so I love that it's just this curved kind of open. It's going to be an open cardigan, and it's this curved from the cable. And then you have this cable repeat that kind of moves over. I really like that the cable is picked up all along the edge there. And then the back is actually the reverse stockinette, not the stockinette. So I have finished the body. I just finished it yesterday. And the ribbing at the bottom, which definitely needs to be blocked, is a twisted rib. So I love it flows into the twisted rib. So you can keep, you know, you keep the cables in the bottom, and then the whole backside is just twisted rib. And yeah, and it is going wonderfully. I've just picked up for the sleeves. Now this is probably where I'm going to modify. You can see it's going to be reverse stockinette for the sleeve, which is fine. But the sleeve in the pattern has no decreases. It's basically straight and then straight down. And that to me is too much fabric at the wrist. I don't necessarily want fitted, but I definitely don't want as big as I did it. The other thing I did is because I wanted it to be a little looser, semi-intentionally, intentionally, I knit the arm depth a little more than she recommended, and then a little bit more than that, and I didn't want to rip back. So my arm depth is actually 16 inches, as opposed to the recommended for my size, I think is like 14 and a half. But I wanted room there because I wanted to be able to wear this over something. And so when I got to 16, which was probably a half an inch more than I was going to, but because I was whatever, I was in the zone and I wasn't stopping. And then I was like, okay, I can deal with 16, but I can't deal with a 16-inch circumference all the way down my arm, especially when you get to here and it's, you know, it's, what do I got, 8 inches maybe? And so I will be doing decreases. I do still want it to be loose at the wrist though. I don't want it to be tight. So I'm debating. I'm doing some math. I'm doing some math. That's what you do when you modify a pattern. So anyways, I will be doing decreases on my sleeve. I haven't decided what the decrease rate is exactly yet. And then I'm going to make my sleeves long too. I probably want them probably a little bit longer than this, or maybe right around here. This is actually a good sleeve length. I should measure it, but yeah. This has been a lot of knitting. I mean, this is fingering and this is cable, and true, the cables are only, luckily it's 2 cable in the front and then, you know, knit and purl for a good part of the back, but it's still having to pay attention to the chart and mark it, and it's fingering. It takes a long time. So I've been knitting a ton on this, a ton. And now that I'm to the sleeves, hopefully it will go, I mean, it hasn't been going slow. It has been, as I said, there's just a lot of knitting in it. And now I'm on, it's going to be reverse stockinette. So it's really purling in the round, which I don't mind purling. So I'll be purling down all the way and doing decreases. But yeah, I'm loving this. Again, this is the Grayer cardigan by Hannah Makskajuska. I think I said that a totally different way this time. Oh, Apple's coming up. She's like, what is going on? This is where she usually sleeps in the afternoon, and she has a sunbeam, and I've closed the windows a little bit, and I'm sitting in her spot, so she's like, what the heck? So I'm hoping to finish this by the end of March, be my goal. Because, unfortunately, I was being monogamous, and now I'm not. Mainly because I have some travels coming up. And I couldn't just bring that in socks. Yeah. I didn't want to bring the big project. And where are my, oh, there it is. So let me show you the other purse project, my other stripy socks that I'm doing. And this is, again, using a mix of leftovers and minis. and I'm doing actually solid stripes this time. And this is a mini unknown. This is some more of that Queen City that I had in the other one that I'm trying to finish up. This is another mini unknown, and this is Knitting Color Cinder and Smoke that I did a pair of socks in. And then this is some Ritual Dyes that I've used a few times, and I know it's gonna bleed, and I'm still using it. Anyways, yeah, so I'm just doing solid stripes this time. And in theory, they're all the same rows, but if you notice, this one looks a little bigger. So the weights, I probably have some mix of light fingering and fingering in there. So the row heights are a little different. But yeah, so this is the other kind of scrappy sock I'm doing. And again, it's going to use up some of that yarn I want to get out of my stash, to count it out of my stash, and then have socks. So again, just making it up as I go. Now, I said I was having travels this weekend, and I am going to the Virginia Beach Yarn Retreat hosted by my friend Martha Knit Crit. I go at least every other year, sometimes more often, and she's been hosting it a long time now. I think 10 years, maybe more. And it is in Virginia Beach. It will be cold, but more importantly, it is a lot of hanging out and knitting time with wonderful people. And so I needed to bring retreat knitting. So I went overboard because I wanted to do hats. And so I went in 2 days ago and pulled out yarn, and I pulled out a worsted, I pulled out a bulky, and I pulled out a super bulky, and I cast on all of them. So the first one is going to be a Graham hat by, who's it going to be by? Jennifer Adams. And I've knit this hat before. It's a free pattern. It's a very easy, it is rib into broken rib. And this yarn is interesting. It's spirit yarn from the Knockers Retreat. And it is a handmade in silk. And so it's 100% silk. So yeah, I just wanted something, it's pretty mindless. So I wanted to get past the ribbing on all of these. So I didn't have to bring an extra change of needles. So I could get to the mindless part. And all this is a knit row followed by a knit purl row. And so all the way up. So yeah, so this will be a cool hat. I haven't decided if it's going to be for me or Charity. It might be for me. I kind of need another neutralish hat. I love neutral hats. So that was one I passed on, and it's in my mom made this bag for me. And a bunch of my friends made a bunch of bags. And so yeah, so this is in this bag. And then the other two are in this bag, which is another bag from my friend Jenny. I don't think she makes bags anymore, kitchen counter crafter. But I cast on a super bulky hat, big chunky comfy hat by Erica Kempf Broughton. And this is a free pattern. And this is my friend Janice's yarn. She gave me a skein of super bulky, I don't know, a few years ago. And I'm making a hat with that. It's just this great kind of Valentine's-y pinkish color. So that is on like chunky needles. This are like US 11s. And this is all in the same one. So that is set aside for when I finish the other hat. And then I cast on, this is mostly mindless. This is going to be the Twisted Affair by Hoki Loki Telly. This is another free hat. She did a bulky, and it is just a simple, I'm only on the rib part, but then it's ribbed, and then a very simple cable pattern. I think it's like a cable every 10 rows or something. And the yarn I'm using, again, spirit yarn from the Knockers Retreat. And when I say spirit yarn, they have a table where people bring yarns that they want to rehome. And so I picked some of this up with the idea that it would be for charity knitting a few years ago. And so this is an alpaca, a bulky alpaca in this brown. It is a little fuzzy. You can see there's like a lot of halo. The stitch definition isn't super, but I think it will make a really nice warm hat for charity. And it shouldn't be that difficult to remember the pattern. So those are the 3 hats I'm going to bring. And then the socks. And then I was worried I wouldn't have enough yarn, and I didn't want to bring my sweater. So I cast on one more thing. And this is, my gosh, I have a lot of Hoki on. This is Inner Peace by Joji Locatelli. And this is a shawl that she did a few years ago. And this, I'm not sure about my yarn choice with the pattern. So this is the pattern, and it is this really cool knit in triangles. And then it has a knitted in bobble kind of edge. And I went with the yardage and fingering and said it needed like 500 yards, 560 yards, but she did it in a Sundera silk merino, and I'm doing mine in 100% merino. I picked a Miss Babs Kira that I had, and this originally was a heavy fingering, but it's really more of a sport. So maybe not the best choice, because it's a little thicker. So I will have to make some adjustments. I've already made some adjustments. I'm going to have to bring my scale to make sure I weigh it. There, in some of these triangle sections, you can shorten them. So I am going to basically make it so when I get halfway on this shawl, I will have used half my skein. So I weighed it, and I'll be weighing as I go through. I cast on a few different times because I am using a thicker, and I tend to knit tightly. So I tend to go up a needle size on almost all patterns anyways. And so I originally cast this on and I just cast on, I didn't really even swatch, a 7, and then it was too loose, and now I'm on a 6. I think her pattern recommendation is like a 4, but yeah. And then it's really cool construction, and it's not that hard. It's basically short rows to create a triangle, and then the edge is going to be this rib, and then bobbles at the edge. Now, I did change the bobbles. The bobbles in her pattern were like a hanging bobble. So you like cast on 3, then did the bobble, then cast off. So it literally like was a bobble that was hanging off. And I didn't like the look, but I wanted bobbles. So I changed mine so that my bobble is right on the edge and it's not as big. I think she was doing a 5-stitch bobble and I'm doing a 3-stitch bobble. And I'm also spacing them. She had them every 4 rows and I'm going to do them every 8 rows so that there's a little more space. And again, personal preference. The shaping is interesting on the shawl, so I'm hoping my yarn and my modifications, I'll be able to make it work. But I really love the color. I love this color of this. And yeah, it's hard to tell from this first section. Like, this is not the width of the shawl. This is more like the top section of the shawl because it's knit in triangles. So I got to get through like the first 2 triangles to kind of see where I'm at. But as I said, it is relatively mindless in the fact that it is a lot of garter and just short rows back and forth and with occasional bobble. So I think I will be able to do this in company, hopefully. So yeah, and then I have it in my Custard Stitches bag right now. This might last for a while. I might have to bring a different bag, a little bigger. So those are all my cast-ons, and I cast on those 3 hats and knit the brims and started that shawl all on Friday. And yeah, so that's all the knitting I have. So I would assume I will have, alpaca's in my nose. I will have by the next podcast all the hats done, socks, maybe the cardigan, but we'll see. All right, moving on into gossip and stash enhancements and what's been going on. I had 2 trips since I saw you last. I went and saw my friend, my best friend from high school in Cleveland and her family and my godson, and it was fun and it was snowy and it was cold and we just did a lot of hanging out and I got a fair amount of knitting. I was knitting on that in cat and a pair of socks. I think I kept it very simple, knowing I travel a fair amount, and although my eyes, like most things, are bigger in terms of knitting, I must bring all the knitting. I started to kind of reel back and be realistic of what I actually do. And I can work on a complicated project on the plane, 2 in there. And then while I'm at or hanging out or doing things, it needs to be fairly mindless. Hat, socks, that kind of thing. And so hence my number of socks that I'm cast on for. I mean socks, hats. Number of hats I cast on for. And why I'm not bringing my sweater, because not super complicated, but I also don't want to bring the bulk because I try to travel light. But anyways, so that was fun. It was a lot of snow. I hadn't seen so much snow in a while. And I even went out for a walk in the snow. I was a little surprised in Cleveland. I grew up in Massachusetts, and in Massachusetts, you shovel your sidewalks so that everybody, you know, all the kids can walk to school and all the other things. So you shovel your sidewalks. But where she lives in Shaker Heights, they do not. And that means that a lot of people, runners or walkers and things like that, when there's snow, like, are in the street, which is a little dangerous and weird. So I don't know. It was very odd to me. It's probably very normal for them, but it was something. I just thought when you were a property owner and whatever, you had to shovel your sidewalks so that people could walk on your sidewalk, but not the case there. I guess sometimes they have like a community one that comes through and does the sidewalks, but not very often when I was there, and it was snowing fair amount. So I did find a sidewalk to walk on though, because I was like, all right, where are they going to have to shovel sidewalks? And she lives pretty close to an elementary school / high school. And so I was like, I bet you if I go over there, because it's like, I don't know, 3 blocks away, that they'll have plowed around, you know, they'll have shoveled the sidewalks. And I was right. So I was able to get a nice long loop on the shoveled sidewalks around the school. Anyways, so that was fun. And then my mom came out. And I try to have my mom come out and visit. She probably comes out every 2 years or so. And so it happened to be that my boyfriend, Juan Carlos, was going on a work trip while we had tickets for Wicked. And so I was like, well, maybe, sorry, I'm going to pause it for a second and really itch my nose. Okay, hopefully that took care of it. Gosh, all this alpaca dust, or alpaca fiber. Anyways, so I flew my mom out and she got to come out and we hung out for a week. I didn't take all the time off of work, but we went to Wicked. We hung out. We watched football. She came when it was playoffs. And she's a big football watcher. And yeah, it was just nice. It was nice. And so that was fun hanging out and seeing her. And yeah. And then Wicked was amazing. This is the touring show of Wicked, and the actresses who are touring for Glinda and Elphaba were amazing. I had seen Wicked probably 15 years ago in LA on one of the first tours that it did, and it was just as good. And the Elphaba in this show was awesome. I have yet to see the Wicked movie yet, but I will see it when it comes out. But the tour, the Broadway or the tour, they're both just still amazing shows. That music is great. So it was really fun to go and see the show with her. I don't think she'd been to the theater in a while, and I just loved hanging out with her. And it was nice. It was just the two of us, and you know, no expectations, no chill, all chill rather. No expectations, all chill. Acquisitions. So we did go, and I didn't even pull it over. We did go shopping one of the days while she was here. In theory, I wanted to go clothes shopping, but I ended up not being in the mood for it. But we did stop in at like a Michael's, and I hadn't been in a Michael's in a while. And I picked up 2 skeins of Pat and Grace to be able to make knitted knockers with. And it was like a neutral color, and that's what I got there. But then the other big acquisition, and I have to bend down because my cat has knocked them all over. So for probably 5 or 6, maybe even 7 years now, I've been backing a Kickstarter. And if you're not familiar with Kickstarter, it's where anyone can kind of create an idea and ask people to basically back them and support them to make the product or whatever. I have done it for various things over the years, planters, yarns, other things. And then my boyfriend does it a lot for board games, like a lot. And he's very interesting in the fact he'll back something and then it comes and he's like, no, but I forgot about that one. I backed it like 3 years ago. But I have been backing this gentleman who lives in Mongolia, and I forget what he does, but he lives in Mongolia, and his idea was to buy Mongolian fibers, get it spun, turned into yarn, and then sold via this Kickstarter. And this is the Ula and Lila. Ula and Lila. I don't even know. ULA plus LIA. And this is what my Mongolian yak is here. And so every year I tend to back him, and I tend to just, typically I get like a 4P, and he always does cashmere, yak, camel, and like a wool. And this year, because I've been backing it every year and I haven't knit a ton with it. And so I have all these like random single skeins of like fingering, cashmere, and DK weight, whatever. And this year I was like, you know what? One, I wanted to back it. And I like backing it because you back it in the summer and then it comes like 6+ months later. So it's like a surprise. But I was like, I have got to use some of this stash. Like, I've got to figure out a way to use it. So this time I bought, because you can always add on, buy things. And so I wanted to specifically buy like enough for a sweater for solids. I have lots of different colors for color work. And so the first one I picked up was a sheep wool. It's an 85% wool, 15% cashmere fingering. This is 430 yards, and I picked up 3 skeins of this natural for the body, and then I will do a color work with it. So this is going to be a sweater of some type, and I actually think I'm going to do it with, I have like a dark green, and I was looking, I think there, I marked out like this sweater called Noel, and it's got like kind of a, it's color work with kind of like this, but it's almost looks like ornaments. And so I thought that might be cool. The other one that I picked up, fingering quantity, this is the 100% cashmere. 100% cashmere. He calls this warm gray. I call this taupe. But sure. And I got 3 skeins of this, and it is luxurious. I actually have had, I originally got it for the cashmere because this cashmere, when you get it through the Kickstarter, is extremely reasonable. I think these were $20 a pop through the Kickstarter, and then when he sells it later, I think he sells it for like 30 or so. But you back the Kickstarter and you can get them at these cheaper prices. And so I have a lot of cashmere. I have a fair amount of cashmere. The other ones I picked up is I got 2 skeins of the 100% baby camel and this dark blue. The idea is I could, I don't know, I could do a cowl or something with them, I think was my thought for getting 2 of those colors. And then I got a yak wool in green, and then a yak wool and chocolate, both of these being DK. So like you can see. And then, as I said, I have cashmere. I have, oh, I'm just like dropping them all. I have cashmere, different colors, because he does different colors as like goals and reaches. So he always has some of the neutrals and the taupes and the ones that are more natural. And then he always does some colors. And yeah, next time the Kickstarter comes out, I will announce it on this podcast. Because if you're looking to back something and get one, you don't have to worry about him not fulfilling. He has fulfilled every year. Once or twice of the years it's been delayed from what he thought because of customs or something like that, because he basically gets it all, mills it in Mongolia, gets it wound in yarn, and then ships it to the US, and then ships from the US. His family is from the US, so I think he comes out for like Christmas or something, and his family helps him, and they ship it all out. And then he always has some. He has a website. You can actually go on there and buy it, and yeah, it's great. I mean, as I said, I love this sweater. And I love this yarn, and I love the story of backing it, and he buys it, you know, directly from Mongolia and the whole thing. So yeah, so that was my acquisition from last year. I bought it, or backed it in the summer. So that was my big acquisition. I am trying to use my stash because I am at my capacity right now in terms of all of my bins that I have are full. And I have enough sock yarn, and I have enough scraps, and I've actually overflowed a little bit. So I need to not buy, because if I want something, I will. But I have enough sweater quantities right now. I have enough. So it's just buying, trying to not go to like these fiber events and buy a ton. Try to be more intentional, but whatever. If I don't, that's fine too. It's all just self-imposed, and I like knitting. And everyone's like, oh, do you wear your knits? And I do. I've been actually trying to wear my sweaters a lot more. And I sent my mom home with 4 sweaters because since I lost such a significant amount of weight, not a lot, but I had a fair amount of sweaters that just were too big. Wasn't going to wear them. And so I had put them aside. I was either going to bring them to Knockers or I asked my mom if she wanted them. So I had the Love Note in there. I had a Steak sweater I did that's more like a tunic length. I had, yeah, I had like 4 sweaters that I sent home with her. So hopefully she wears them. Sometimes she takes them. If she doesn't wear them, then I will take them back and find new homes for them because I wasn't going to rip them. And I've trying to wear my sweaters actually more regularly now here. And though my sweater wearing window is probably another month or so. No, I should say probably till April. But yeah, and then yeah, just wearing my sweaters. And that's what I have for yarn acquisitions. What have I been doing? Watching, reading. Watching, because it was a fair amount. So like yesterday I was watching PBS because we support PBS, and so we get that. So we watched, or I shouldn't say we, I watched Mr. T, Professor T, and Van der Valk. Both of those are kind of crime procedural mysteries. One is based in the UK, one is technically in Amsterdam, but it's weird because it's English actors pretending to be Dutch, but not even, it's all in English. It's very odd. But I like the I'm a sucker for a police procedural. So I was watching that, and then the other show I started watching, which is actually, it's in the 3rd season, and I don't know, I just randomly started watching it, was Will Trent, which is, it's a fictional, but Georgia Bureau of Investigation. And so it's based in Georgia. It's a mixed cast. And what I like is the cast is flawed. Let's go with not perfect. So he is the top investigator. And so it's crime procedural, but his thing is he grew up in group homes and he's dyslexic. And his love interest / best friend from wherever they grew up together, she's a detective and she has issues and various things. And so I just really like the character and then the police procedural part. And then also watching Matlock. I love Kathy Bates. She is better than ever now. Like, and she looks great. And she plays this, you know, she goes in and plays Matlock, which is not her real name. Basically, she says she's a lawyer who has to go back to work because her daughter died and she's raising her grandson, which is true, but it's not the full truth. She's actually trying to find out if this firm hid documents that could have stopped or taken opioids off the market earlier, because that is what her daughter ended up dying, was an opioid addiction. But I just love her character. Like, she goes in and she's obviously very smart, but she plays this doddering grandmother when she needs to like talk to people. And yeah, it's just I love watching it. The other thing is, so because I flew to Cleveland, I had movie knitting on the plane, which is my favorite way to watch like some movies that I wouldn't necessarily gravitate towards home. Almost at home, almost always I watch TV shows. Occasionally we'll watch a movie, but on planes I pretty much only watch movies and recent movies. So I think on that last trip I watched Twister, which was a remake kind of thing and just a fun romp. And then I watched Alien Romulus, which I thought was actually a good addition to the Alien franchise. I liked it. And I watched Lee, and that was really, really good. It's Kate Winslet, and it's based on a woman's life story of a photographer in World War II who went and took some of the most horrific photos right after from the Holocaust. She got in early and was doing things, and nobody knows that these pictures, which are, you know, horrific, were taken by this woman. And this woman who modeled in her younger days and did things, and it's based on the life of this woman, Lee. And I watched it just because I'll pretty much watch anything Kate Winslet is in. She's an amazing actress. She does great projects. And even though I wouldn't normally watch a war movie or anything to do with war, I stuck it on because one, I'd seen that she had been nominated for this role as a Golden Globe, and I think she got an Oscar nomination. And it's Kate Winslet. And so I started watching it, and it was amazing. Some of it's very hard to watch, but just what it takes to have been a woman and trying to get entrenched in the war, trying to get sent as, you know, as the press. She was actually working for Vogue and that's her press credentials. And so, yeah, it was highly recommended. Very well done. And then the other one I watched was Saturday Night, and it was a dramedy, a dramatization of the very first Saturday Night Live show. As you know, I haven't watched it yet, but it's the 50th anniversary. They were doing a lot of things this weekend. I'm sure I'll watch it after the fact. And this was a dramatization of the hour and a half before the first episode. And it was really funny. It was really, really good. It was interesting. You know, back in the day, the different characters and the different actors and their characters and their how they were. And yeah, so another one I liked watching. In terms of books, I've read 18 books this year. A lot of them are my normal continuation of series I'm doing. For supernatural kind of romance, I'm reading Dakota Cassidy, her Accidental series. And so this is people that are accidentally turned into paranormal people, and then this paranormal trio of ladies that helps them through it. So I read Accidental Fairy, where this guy becomes a fairy. And then for the first time, late to the game, but I read The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And I had been recommended by friends. Obviously, it's been on the bestseller list for a long, long time. And the new book, Onyx, was coming out. So finally got it and read it, and it was really good. Very similar to a lot of fantasy that I read, except maybe a little heavier on the romance than some of the other ones. But very well done. I enjoyed the characters. I'm going to space out the books, even though the third one is out. I know that she says her series is going to be 5 books, and so I think I'm going to kind of be slow-ish. And so I probably won't read the next book for at least a year or two and try to... As much as I like to binge a series, I also like to spread it out, and I don't like when I catch up to a series per se. And and I heard this like last book is on a cliffhanger, and yeah, so gonna do it that. But it was very good. I lived up to the hype. Also, what am I reading? One of my favorite fantasy authors right now is Sean McGuire, or Shannon. I don't know how you say that. Seanan. Shannon. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. But she does 3 different series that I really like. The October Daye series, the Encrypted series, and then I started reading her Wayward Children series. And that's more geared towards young adults. And it's kind of, the whole series is based on what happens to children who go off and have an adventure. So like Alice in Wonderland, what happens after she comes back, or does she come back? And it's this kind of concept where these children, for whatever reason, end up coming back. And then how do you deal with wanting to go back? The idea is all these worlds that they went to might have been the perfect world for them. And then they're always wanting to go back because now that they've lived there, coming back into their birth world is not, it's not where they want to be. And so she does a riff of stories off this. And so I think I'm on the 3rd book. I read the 2nd and 3rd book. And then I read the latest Encrypted series. And so that's, I think she's up to book 14. And it's a continuation. And each one I like it because it follows different characters in this whole family system. And that one is if we had paranormal lived here. And then there's this family who tries to support them. And then there's like, you know, the evil one who wants to, you know, get rid of all creatures. And yeah. I also listened to TJ Klune, Somewhere Beyond the Blue Sea. This is the 2nd in a series of books. And TJ Klune, I really like. He writes very inclusive books. And this is about a orphanage on an island that the first book had sent, like the government agency had sent someone to like investigate it and shut it down. And he ended up falling in love with the orphanage, the gentleman who ran the thing, and becoming part of the family. And then this is kind of a continuation of, you know, them wanting to take over, the government take over, and potentially, because the children are very powerful. They have different powers and etc. But he writes such touching and real, and he touches emotions, which I like when people do. You know, what would it really feel like? And it was just an enjoyable read. I really like TJ Klune's writing. And And then I'm in my police procedurals. So I finished another Bruno, Chief of Police by Martin Walker, book 10. And then Margaret Maron, who is the Deborah Knott mysteries. I finished books 8, 9, and 10. And again, they're just, mystery all in one, and then a little bit more of the character moving along. So from the Margaret Maron, from the Deborah Knott mysteries, she actually just got engaged through a weird way to a childhood friend, and it turns out that they're, both in love. So I think the next book she gets married. And then another one I did, it was the second one in this author. It's Irina Shapiro, Murder at Traitor's Gate. And this takes place in London in the probably late 1800s. And it is a police detective and then this woman who he met through the first book and has become friends with, and yeah, that kind of thing, and trying to do another murder mystery. And also just well done. So yeah, so those are the books I've read so far. And right now I'm reading the Louise Penny, the latest Inspector Gavroche novel. I'm listening to that one. And then I have 2 books that I haven't started yet, so that I've downloaded, that have come in, that I mix I have a huge list of books to read. I think my list for my library is like 90 books. So, I mix between the audiobooks, which is primarily what I listen to like when I walk, and then read, which I read at lunch. That's kind of what's been going on. Work is getting busier. I was assigned another project that's going to be constructed by in-house horses. Still trying to finish up my other project. I haven't, unfortunately, been able to start the facilities up yet. We're still waiting for some permitting. I'm crossing my fingers that maybe this summer I'll be able to start them up. And then travels. My travels are pretty fleshed out, I think, for the rest of the year of trips. So Virginia Beach is this weekend, and then the boyfriend and I are going to WonderCon, which is a comic book convention. We go in Anaheim in March, Northern California Knitting Retreat in April. A new one added is I'm going to Maryland Sheep and Wool with some friends, knitting friends, and so that will be very exciting. We're doing that instead of Rhinebeck this year. And then Zombie Apocalypse in June. And then I might be doing a visit down to San Diego. I got a 1-day ticket for the San Diego Comic-Con, which is the biggest comic book convention. And yeah, so we only got Sunday tickets, so we'll probably just go up for Sunday, Monday or something. And then my niece is coming to visit in August, and she has asked to come with her friend, and they will both be 15. So 2 15-year-old girls for a week. We'll have to see what we're going to do. We'll probably do more of the things that she's done. I will basically ask what they want to do, and I will give them. So we'll do a theme park one of the days. We'll do probably shopping, because 15-year-old girls like shopping, and hanging out. So that will be fun. And then another trip with my family sometime in the summer. My mom is turning 70, so we're probably going to go to Florida again, so that we can do a combo, her birthday and my grandmother. And then I have a weekend trip with my college roommates in Santa Barbara, and then Hohi's retreat in Buenos Aires with my mom. Super looking forward to that. And yeah, that's my travel plans right now, and we will see how that works out for the year. But I'm going to go back to knitting and get this edited up, and I will see probably some of you guys who watch at Virginia Beach, which will be fun. And then I will see everyone on this podcast. I'll probably be back in end of March, be my guest, and go from there. So I hope everyone is having a wonderful end of winter, beginning of spring. It feels like spring here. As I said, the sun's out. We've gotten some rain recently, which was desperately needed. The fires were horrible in Los Angeles, as everybody knows. Luckily, I was not personally impacted in terms of my home life, but I did have to work for my job, some emergency overnight shifts and things like that. And the rebuilding is it's just horrific. So my heart goes out to everybody impacted with that. And yeah, but I'm going to go back to knitting and enjoying a little bit more time off before I go back to work tomorrow. But then it's a short week and I fly out on Thursday, and I'm very excited. Very excited, even though it will be very cold. but that's what sweaters are for. So I'll be wearing all the sweaters, probably. Anyways, that's a wrap from Hollywood, where fantasy meets fiber and dreams are knit. I forgot my own catchline. And if you want to find me, I'm Allison1031 on Instagram, which I'm still there, post occasionally, and Ravelry. But you can also just drop a comment under here, whatever, or just see me. Hopefully you're going to see me. Hopefully you're watching this because you've met and we're buds, or we will be buds when you meet me. I want to go to all the knitting retreats. I just see all of these retreats and I just want to go to all of them, but I can't because I still work and I still have other things to do. I'm very fortunate in the fact how much travel I do get to do, and that's amazing, but I want to do more. I want to be retired, which I have 7 years before I can retire, but when I do, I'm going to be doing all of the things everywhere, internationally, domestically. Anyways, I will leave you wishing everyone a wonderful, wonderful end of February, beginning of March. The doldrums of winter, they're coming through. I see snow everywhere, but it will end in the spring. Unless you're in the part of the world where it is summer and spring. I love seeing like Joji Locatelli's pictures because she's smack in the depth of summer. Anyways, now I'm rambling, so I'll see you guys later.